Welcome back, everyone, to Looking at Transformers Movies, Session 6. A soldier coming home, a boy coming out. As one bay leaves, another bay appears. Today we'll be talking.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm rejoined with my co host Tommy,
Yeah, hi.
and I'm Greg, if that matters. And today we're going to be looking at Tommy's favorite film in the Transformers universe side story, whatever it's called, a Tuss film, Love, Simon.
Mm.
Yeah, this was sort of a surprise. Oh no, I screwed this up. I don't even know when it came out. It's
Uh,
okay. That's fine.
no,
Um,
no, 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 no,
okay.
no, 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 no.
All
You did
right. All
screw that
right.
up.
No, no.
March,
I did screw it up. But what's the
March 16th, 2018.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Okay.
I was there, Greg.
No, I know I screwed it up. It's because that was the last night's release date. I just used the same template every time.
Oops.
Yeah. Whoopsie. Okay. I'm trying to think. No, that's fine. So this is the first film in the Transformers expanded universe or extended universe, whatever you want to say. A lot of people don't know that this is actually a Transformers spinoff, which I think is kind of weird. I mean, it's like super obvious
Yeah,
to us, obvious.
absolutely. I don't get why people don't know it.
Like we saw the trailer and we were just like, okay, that's gonna be Transformers 6. All right then.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yeah.
there's no robot characters that appear in this one, but I don't think that matters. I mean, they're barely in the Michael Bay movies to begin with, so does that really
Oh,
matter?
yeah. They just did it to save the budget on this movie. Why not? They thought they'd get a bigger investment.
Oh yeah, one of my points highlighted here: $10 million to $17 million budget. Only grossed about $66 million. Unfortunately, should have done better.
Yeah,
But the biggest shock
absolutely.
here is this is the first Transformers film to get a fresh rating. I mean, 92
Oh,
percent,
wow. Yeah,
and that
that was pretty shocking. Pretty shocking.
and that stays consistent throughout all these spin-off movies. I think I think Instant Family has like an 80 something, and then Bumblebee also has like a 92 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, um, Tommy, you want to talk a little bit about like your history with this movie?
Oh, well, I lived this movie and then I saw this movie years later.
Would you like to elaborate on your point? Just so you could, sorry, not to explain your whole story, but just to say like you thought this film was very hit very close to home. You would say.
Mm.
Um,
Yes, very. As someone who, came out a little bit in high school and then got outed in a terrible way, this is like the Schindler's List of of getting outed movies.
all right,
Yeah.
sounds good. Would
Mm.
you like to read the plot synopsis?
After the collision of Earth and Cybertron, the Autobots and Decepticons have agreed to a temporary ceasefire for a period of reconstruction. In the wake of this, Colonel Lennox is allowed to go into witness protection with his family under the new family name Spear. While they all know he loves his family more than anything, his son Simon has a secret. He is not sure he is ready to share. Read to share, not ready to share, not read to
I
share.
know, I know. We made this very recently. Yeah, I actually think I kind of screwed up on the synopsis a little bit because I didn't mention anything about Blue, but we'll get into that for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, BB, yeah, do you want to talk at all about seeing this movie the first time, or
Nope.
okay? You did see this in the theater twice, three times?
Four whole times. Four
Huh?
whole
Four whole
times.
time. Oh, perfect. Because I saw Age of Extinction four times, so I'm glad we both saw our favorite
Exactly.
Transformers films four times in theaters. That's perfect. I was just doing it because
Mhm.
Transformers four, but I appreciate the symmetry there. Um, I have to admit, I didn't see this film or the next film in theaters. I regret that. Oh no, I can't say that. I can't say that I've seen every Transformers film in the theater now. I think I just was like being a little picky at that point. Like, oh, I can just see this on video. It'll probably have the same effect. But just for the sake of the franchise, I wish I just went and saw. Obviously. Um,
I don't know
but
what you're
yeah,
thinking, Greg.
what?
Oh, well, I was just making a joke. What were you thinking, Greg? Don't even
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Good point. But yeah, I saw it once it was new on video to rent, and then I have the Blu-ray now. So I'm a Love Simon fan. I made sure to make up
Okay.
for it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, and then so why don't we? Is it labeled? I don't know. Why did I do that? Yeah, so just to sort of break down some of the reasons why, to be fair, like to be a little fair, they don't label this as Transformers 6 or part of the Transformers Cinematic Universe. Essentially just because The Last Night was such a box office disappointment that they were just like, we need to regroup. We need to get all of this robot nonsense out of these movies for a little bit just to figure out what's going on and so we can save some money. So, if they did keep the robot scenes in this movie, it would have cost probably $100 million more or whatever. So they said, just strip all that out, focus on the drama because that was sort of working in the good Transformers movies, and we'll just stick to that for the next two films. So, Love Simon, Instant Family, while they have the same human characters from the previous Transformers films, they take out all the robot characters, I think, just for cost effectiveness. And then also, I think it sort of gives this franchise sort of a moment to breathe, right? Because, like, people will see the trailer and go, oh, a queer coming out narrative. I'll go see that as opposed to going, oh, God, not another Transformers movie.
Yeah. I think that whatever happened with the box office, Transformers had nothing to do with the result
Of the Last Night or of this movie?
of this movie.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure what you meant. No, I mean, the fact that the last night was really, really bad was the reason it didn't make money, not because it had robots. But studio decisions are studio decisions. Um,
Absolutely.
but
Greg,
yeah,
there was originally going to be a scene at the end of the movie where Optimus Prime was going to be at the Winter Carnival looking out for Simon, making sure things got rough, but then they decided to cut it for budgetary reasons.
Optimus Prime was going to do that.
Yeah, Optimus Prime.
Are you sure he was trying to help Simon? That's not what Optimus Prime does.
Oh, that's what and then that's actually it. The director said, "Yeah, Optimus Prime wouldn't do this," so he cut it out of the movie.
Oh, okay, thank God. Thank you, Greg Milletti.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a lack of continuity in this franchise. That really hurts it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tommy, would you like to explain, even though we all know, we all get it, but would you like to explain how this is Colonel Lennox from the previous films?
Well, he obviously went into witness protection, Greg. After the last night, he had to go into witness protection for reasons.
Well,
And he
because of
just
what all the stuff he witnessed in war and things like that. Very specifically, it's covered in this prequel novel that you can buy on Amazon now. Lennox and Glenn take down North Korea. It's the prequel novel that really explains like why Lennox and his family have to go into witness protection, and then it also explains like, well, this actually, I can't remember if this is explained in the novel or like the appendices or something. But like his wife Sarah from the first movie has to get facial reconstruction surgery, which is why she can now be played by Jennifer Garner in this film.
yeah,
Um, but and then she also has to change her name to Emily Spear, so that become Jack Spear, Emily Spear, respectively, from being William Lennox and Sarah Lennox. Um, yeah, but I mean
yeah,
they can't hide it from us. I mean it's clearly the same characters from the first Transformers movie, and Lennox is in all of them, but Sarah's only in the first one.
yeah.
And then
True
just
that.
like the biggest point of obviousness, it's in the very first film, Sarah, now Emily, has this daughter who at the time they named Annabelle, and now they had to rename her to Nora because of Witness Protection Agency. But she's like 11 in this movie or whatever, and she's a baby in the first film. So that very obvious timeline.
Oh, absolutely. It would be a mistake not to think this.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't look at these two characters and go, that is obviously the same character?
Oh, completely.
God, I don't understand people sometimes.
Yeah. Whew.
I'm more
Kind of
confused
crazy.
by I'm more confused by these people than straight people, honestly.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And then this one, I mean, God, like if you didn't get the Nora Annabelle thing, like how could you not get this, Tommy? You want to explain?
Well, you see, he was like Tony Hale's character was like a scientist in 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 the first movie, and obviously his plan failed. So the government just basically I said, we're getting you out of here. We're making you a high school principal in Atlanta. So it just ends up with Colonel Lennox's kid.
Yeah, it's a little like obscure, or it's not very well defined in the short film directed by Ridley Scott on Paramount Plus. Can I get a Hail Mary for Tony? This short film really just covers the transition he makes. Like it starts out like he's just in his apartment, all washed up and stuff. He's just like, what am I gonna do? And then it's like not super clear if he quits NASA because of what happened in the last night, or if he gets fired outright. I want to assume he probably quits like out of shame as opposed to being fired because like he didn't do anything wrong in the last night necessarily. He tries to solve, just as a reminder, he tries to solve the Cybertron Decepticon plot that's going to destroy Earth with science, and then what actually ends up solving it is Laura Haddock grabbing a staff at the end of the day and saving it with magic. So, like, I like to imagine it was more just like his faith in science was shaken, so he has to abandon that job at NASA to go work in a school. Um, because he's now the vice principal and loves Simon. I couldn't find his name in the last night at all. In this, his name is his last name is Wright, right? Like principal or vice principal Wright.
Worth.
I'm correct.
No, his last name is Worth.
Oh, Worth. Oh, that's pretty close. But yeah, I searched every fan wiki I could for Transformers. All this guy is labeled as is NASA scientist, which is just like, how does he not have a name? I mean, it's like he's the primary scientist character in the film. But I guess it's the last night, right? Nothing matters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world. And then what's even cool is that they use this movie to set up characters for future Transformers movies too. I mean, crazy.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy how well they thought all this out. So in Love, Simon, we have this character named Nick Eisner, played by what's his name again? George Lendenborough.
Jorge Landenborough.
Yeah, Jorge, my bad. Jorge Lendenborough. And in this film, he's playing Nick Eisner, and um, so as you can see, it's the same character in both films. And when he shows up in Bumblebee, it's like, well, how's he here? Because it's the '80s, right? So it's like, is he a time traveler? Is he a vampire?
Is he an X-Men?
I don't mean literally a vampire. I just mean like, does he not age or something like that? I'm gonna hope it's the time traveler thing, because otherwise the whole getting together with girls and throughout the time periods is a little Edward Cullen. But I mean, clearly it's got to be the same character because he's got the same goal in both movies. It's just to get a girlfriend. And this movie, he's trying to get with the Abby character. In Bumblebee, he's trying to get with the Haley Steinfeld character. Um, yeah, I mean, I just, this isn't covered in any of the prequel comics because I'm assuming they're going to reveal this probably in Rise of the Beast. This is going to be.
It'd be a shame of a movie. It would be a shame of a movie if they didn't to explain that. Yeah.
They have to at this point. I mean, this has been going on for like 3 films now.
Exactly.
They can't just hold off anymore on this explanation. So, we're probably going to get that in Rise of the Beasts. In that movie's 3 hour and 45-minute running time, it has to be explained.
Absolutely.
All right. So yeah, I think, for anyone who's seriously still confused about how this is related to Transformers, I mean, there you go. It's all there. I don't know what else we can say. But, at the end of the day, this is still not a movie necessarily about like forwarding the plot and the mythos of Transformers. It's really about like getting to know some of these characters more in depth. This is more of a character-driven film than the other films, I would say, even though, yeah, well, we can just say that. So for Love, Simon today, I would like us to focus on this idea of perspective and expectations, where we're basically just going to be looking at just how characters' perspective and expectations really affect their view on the world and themselves. I have it written down here. How do characters see the worlds, the world, their lives, themselves? I'm so sorry. Excuse me. That's staying in. How characters assume the world should work, how they think people will be, what they're expecting from people. Because, I mean, we haven't explained this super well yet. The main narrative of the film is that the main character, Simon, we can take a look at him here. Actually, Tommy, do you want to explain? Like, explain Simon's conflicts and maybe Blue, too?
Okay, so Simon Spear is in the beginning of the movie, is a closeted gay kid who doesn't want to come out because he's comfort with his. He doesn't want to make. Let's just say he has his own right not to come out when he feels like it. He didn't feel like it. And Blue is the anonymous boy that he emails back and forth because of the school blog. And the whole movie is about him trying to find out who this Blue character is.
Yeah, and also, and then there's this other, the biggest villain in the Transformers universe comes in, Martin, who tries to blackmail Simon, basically gets a hold of those emails, and he's threatening, like, Simon, if you don't set me up with your friend Abby, then I'm going to release these emails. And then, Simon has to navigate that, stop himself from being outed, but also stop Martin from, like, ruining his friends' lives. So yeah,
Plus,
pretty,
if his
but
emails get leaked, the Decepticons could invade the school. But
yeah,
that
Tommy.
plot was on the
Come on,
what?
Tommy. That's not really part of the plot. Let's not make this silly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so like the way we set this up is that we came up with some character slides and just wanted to talk about some specific scenes from the movie and how different characters kind of um, how the different characters words um, how their expectations and perspective on the world sort of affects how it affects Simon, how it affects themselves. Just character relationship stuff, because to me that's the interesting thing for me in this movie is the way that the characters sort of perceive the world and how that affects their lives. Um, so
Absolutely.
yeah, so and then for each character we sort of picked some key moments and scenes that we wanted to discuss. Tommy wanted to talk about some of the acting in those scenes. I mainly wanted to focus on the again, that whole character expectation perspective thing. But yeah, we'll talk about a little bit of both, and then we'll just have the general discussion at the end too. Talk about where this ranks in our Transformers rankings. Anyways, um, to me, and Tommy, you can totally refute this if you'd like. To me, the key idea in the movie, or the thing that I find very interesting, is the question that it asks: Why do gay people have to come out? Why is straight the default? Um, I always find that a really interesting point the film is making, and especially how it's exemplified through, I guess, kind of everybody. But the moment with the dad, especially later, was very interesting and powerful to me. Tommy, do you want to start with that, or would you like me to start with that?
You're the one talking about it, so you should start with it. That was
Okay.
that was your that was your inclusion to it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, just I guess we'll talk about more throughout, but just the general questioning of that, because I have conflicted feelings about that. Well, not even conflicted, but I wonder how many um I wonder how universal that is for LGBTQ people in general. Like, um, how much do they, want? How do I say this? I'm curious how universal that question is and how that claim is, I guess. And I'm wondering sometimes if it's too like, because there's a bit of this film that feels a little like it's trying to pander still to a hetero perspective, to like make sure it's like not too alienating to anybody. Um, I've had friends that have complained that Simon is too basically hetero in his presentation. Like they don't like how he's presented as just like, and again all that language about like I'm just a normal guy, um, trying to like downplay his identity at all. Um, but I still find it an interesting question.
I just think this is an Americanized version
Mhm.
of what you can present to young people in the most safest
Yeah,
way possible. So, because at the end of the day, they wanted to create a baby step into making this the first major release LGBTQ plus film to be made for a young audience. Like, I think they just did that to present. It's a audience grabber.
hmm
It's to grab people into it. So it's not too like you're making. They want to make this a light comedy. So
hmm
they don't want it to be too sad.
sure,
They want to go for gleaness. They want to live in fantasy romantic comedy world and John Hughes world. And it's a way to set up that tone for the movie.
sure. Don't please Stewart though. And then, yeah, did you want to talk about the fantasizing element with Blue's posts?
I mean, that's like that's sort of like I think that's in a lot of romantic comedies with the female lead fantasizing about the guy or the girl, or the guy fantasizing about the girl. And there's like always that's a romantic comedy thing. Like they kind of do it a little bit more artsy in this one, whereas in most romantic comedies it's done as a joke.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is a really good point. Actually, they play it so sincerely and unironically. Yeah,
mhm.
that is different. Um, and yeah, I think it's always I always enjoy how clever it is that like as Simon's suspects, if I can say, of Blue are changing. Like that's how it's changing how he's seeing who he's seeing in his mind. So when he thinks it's this boy, it becomes this boy in his mind. When he thinks this boy, and then different perspectives. And early on, he doesn't even have a face to it. I do want to mention that he assumes it's still a white body, but you know that's fine. He's a white teenage boy. That's what you'd assume. I think it's what most white teenage boys would assume. Um, you still there, Tommy?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess just to talk about this thing with Simon, because I find this an interesting connection to the early Transformers movies too. Um, this whole the whole monologue at the beginning about how he's just a normal teenage boy. Everything about his life is normal, and he's being given a car on his 17th birthday. Like, but it just reminds me of that sort of classist statement we were thinking about with Spielberg in the first Transformers movie when he said, "Make it about a boy in his car," because that's everything. That's something everyone can relate to. Now, this movie's not about like Simon and his relationship with getting his first car. It's just funny that that sort of is still present in this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they address this topic. I mean, I'm going to ask you to talk about Love Victor. They do address this sort of inherent class assumption because every time I watch the film, like, is it self-aware of how um, like inherent high class that sounds? And again, he's not necessarily he's like upper middle class or whatever. Um, but it's that same inherent assumption that Spielberg's making, and then I'm like, I don't think this film's being self-aware about that either. So that's kind of interesting. And then you say in Love Victor they address that, right?
Yes, they address it in Love Victor.
And how do they address it? They just say like Simon had
Basic.
more. Yeah, go ahead.
They addressed it by saying that it's the area in particular where, like, there's a scene where, like, kids have credit cards and they're eating sushi for lunch and all that. It's basically the area in question is you're essentially in the high class district where this takes place.
Okay. Do they
So,
relate
like,
that to? Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, ask the question.
Do they relate that to Victor's struggles to come out? Because Victor's Latino, right?
Yeah, he's
So
Cuban American, and
okay,
they, it's, I, it's more related to the fact that he lived in this area where people genuine like he came from Atlanta from Texas, where his family is like extremely Catholic and they're Latinx, and so he goes to this position where he's in the higher class. Everyone is either fiscally wealthy or everyone is either thinks essentially more or less the same way that they're in the very left, whereas the family is more conservative.
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
That's all I can really say about that.
no, yeah, that's fair. And then looking at our next character, Bram, who's also secretly blue. Um,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, sorry, spoiler alert. I think at this point in the series, you get that we're just going to break down the whole story. Um, so yeah, what do we want to talk about with Bram? Bram is the boy behind the emails revealed at the end of the film. He is scared like Simon to come out to anyone in his life, including Simon over the emails, who he only knows as Jacques. So like when they're communicating, Simon is using the name Jacques, and Bram's using the name Blue. Um, so I guess just some scenes I thought of to highlight were like Bram coming out to his dad and sort of his reaction to that, the dad's reaction, but also how it made Bram feel, Blue feel, their connection over the Oreos, which I think is interesting, and then the Halloween party scene, which I would definitely want to talk about, and the final scene. Tommy, which one do you want to start with?
Um, we could do. I kind of want to go in movie order, but we can go in your slide order. All I can
Oh,
say
okay.
is that his coming out based on because we don't actually see his coming out because it's like he's a third act reveal.
Yes.
So we just hear that it's fine. It's awkward. It is what it is.
It seems to go over well enough, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then honestly, I didn't really have anything to say about the Oreo scene. I just thought it was sort of a funny connection to have. And then, yeah, you want to
I
talk
can
about
say
the?
something. I can just
Oh,
say
go
it's
for it.
a no. I'm just saying it's just a device that each mystery uses to make it clear of who the person is. And if you've seen any mystery movie, there are those first act reveal that comes into play in the third act where it's like, oh, it was so obvious it was this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna
But
say.
he's the Simon see other people eating the Oreos too. I think
No,
it's always
he only
Bram.
sees him. It's, I mean,
Okay.
you could debate it. It's because of the fact that Bram says, "Oh, I like the orange ones," not
Yeah, that's
thinking
right.
it was.
So we get that first, and then they get invited to the Halloween party, right? That's the order.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Um, I'll be honest. When we're talking about the Bay movies, the Michael Bay Transformers movies, it's like it's easier to not have to discuss those movies in order because the plot structure really doesn't matter that much for this film. Yeah, it is like a detective story almost, so we do have to sort of acknowledge the order of events. So there's a difference in narratives.
Uh huh.
Anyways, yeah, and then we get to the Halloween party. Um, do you want to start with this one or?
No, it's so that way you can appreciate the chemistry at the end of the movie. Like they kind of get it
Yes.
out of the way.
Yeah, so they use the Halloween scene to show us that Bram and Simon are hanging out at the party and they're getting along really well. But then we get this moment where Simon goes upstairs to sort of he's gonna ask Bram if he's blue, I think, and then Bram said he catches Bram in a bedroom, presumably probably his bedroom, um, with a girl, and then Simon is embarrassed and walks out. And to me it looks like you know because and then they try to explain at the end. It's like, oh, Bram wasn't actually into that. Like they were both drunk or whatever, and just maybe she was probably interested in him, but he was trying to like politely decline her. But like they make it look like that they are into each other. But I'm okay with the explanation that like this is part of
Okay,
what.
it's a franchise connection. They wanted to like they were so appalled how they treated Megan Fox in the movie. They wanted to. The girl's actually a Decepticon.
Maybe that was cut.
That's what happened. That's what happened. It's a replay from the Revenge of the Saw Fallen scene.
Ah, yes, reconnection.
Yes.
But also just the way that Simon's seeing it, it could just be like a thing. I choose to take it as part of that perspective thing where Simon's just assuming that's what he's seeing, that they're more into it than they are.
Yeah.
So they
Could
don't
be he
ever,
was drunk.
yeah,
He was drunk. I'm wrong.
they never replay the scene, but they try to have Bram explain it as like, oh, dude, I was drunk, I just didn't really know what was going on, which is already kind of strange, but whatever. But yeah, maybe it is just trying to keep in theme with the Revenge of the Fallen sex robot who's like forcing herself onto Sam, where it's sort of reversing the typical expectation of the man forcing himself on the woman. Oh, this franchise is so wonderful, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So much themes.
So many themes, so many consistent motifs and ideas.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Hannah Baker. I mean Leah Burke.
Oh yes. So they established that she died and it went into the Transformers universe as this identity.
No, I don't know if we could
No,
do that. I don't know if we're allowed to do that joke.
no, we're not.
I guess we already did it. But yeah, so we have Leah uh, as Simon's best friend in the film. Um, as we wrote down, Tommy, do you want to read her character description at the top?
Yes, Liam and Simon have been best friends for as long as the Autobots have been on Earth. She has been in love with him since junior high and is hoping they will finally get together. Wah wah.
Yeah, we're estimating that Simon was born in 2000 because this film takes place in 2018. He's like 17 years old in it. Um, And the first Transformers film was 2007, so they're roughly 7 years old when they become best friends. So yeah, about the same time as the Autobots. Again, just sort of keeping that finding some symmetry in the series of like they're thinking about like, well, Simon and Leah should be friends as long as the Autobots have been here, because that's like when the story starts. Um, Anyways, we want to talk about sort of Leah's crush on Simon, and the way that she sort of reacts to him coming out. Which, I mean, okay, so there's more to it than that. Actually, I should probably put some more on here than that. But there's an element, right, where she's sort of trying to hint to Simon like that she's in love with him, and Simon's like ignoring it because he doesn't feel that way about any girl. Um, and then he like tries to, and then part of this plot becomes because that Martin character is trying to manipulate Simon um, into setting him up with his friend Abby. He as part of his manipulation to keep Nick away from Abby, who's Nick and Abby are into each other. He tries to manipulate. Uh, he tells Leah and Nick that they should go out basically
Uh-huh.
instead. And then I think that's more of what Leah finds upsetting, is that she tried to set him up with uh, Nick more than like him not being interested in her.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on all that, Tommy?
You basically just said it. There's nothing else that can really be said. It's a B plot. What can we say?
Yeah, I guess what's sort of interesting to me is again part of that perspective thing, part of that expectation thing is like she assumes that her male best friend would be her partner eventually, and I know she genuinely has a crush on him, but
Who
I think
wouldn't?
yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. Again, part of that whole why do we assume that hetero is the default? She's assuming that her male best friend's gonna be her boyfriend eventually. Maybe not. Sorry,
Yep.
maybe assuming is too hard a word, but that's definitely part of her perspective. She's like, well, I should be with my male best friend. Anyways, then we get my favorite character, Abby.
Your favorite?
Uh, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay.
I think so. She was she was sort of the most interesting character on the rewatch besides like Simon, I guess.
Uh,
On the rewatch, she was the most interesting friend character to me, because of the way she's like struggling with. Again, we'll talk about it in a second. So Abby is the newest friend in Simon's circle of friends. Her and Nick clearly like each other. Again, Nick is the same character from Bumblebee, the time traveler, we assume.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
Her and Nick clearly like each other, but Simon tries to keep them apart because of the blackmail plot against him. Um, and then I have a lot of interesting points I want to bring up about her. She's the first person that Simon comes out to. Tommy, do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about the scene?
I mean, it's a very sweet scene. The acting's good in it. Everyone reacts the way anyone should react when they're coming out. It's very authentic. I like the choice of audience on the sing in the bathroom. Abby seems supportive. It's just very well done.
Do they make a
I,
joke though about Simon pulling over all weird like though, or no?
no, it's like he signals even though there's clearly no car behind him.
Well, not even that, but just kind of when I rewatched this time when he pulls over on the side of the road, Abby looks a little like, oh God, am I about to be like beaten to death? Sorry, it's like it looked a little suspicious this time. She looked
That,
a
that
little.
would
Hmm?
that would be a Netflix series, not a romantic comedy movie.
Yeah, her initial reaction, she looked a little creeped out. I was like, this is interesting reaction. But yeah, after that, it's a sweet scene that works for sure. Um,
Mhm.
the Waffle House scene, of course, the famous Waffle House scene, where the film's primary antagonist, Martin, uh, sort of has this interesting effect on Abby, I would say, where he's like trying to hype her up, like, I want you to stand on this table right now and say, I deserve a goddamn superhero, or something like that, right? And Abby's like embarrassed about it first, but then she kind of goes along with it. And then we're starting to wonder, like, oh no, is she really starting to like Martin? And she never does go that way, but it's like sort of interesting how, like, the villain of the story can still have this, like, kind of positive impact on her, because I think that probably does give her a lot of self confidence and, like, helps her feel better about what happened with her dad, like leaving her family. Which again, not saying that solves it, just that I think it sort of did have a positive impact on her in an
It
interesting
was a
way.
reprieve.
Hmm?
It was a reprieve.
Yeah, repeat. That's a good way to put it.
Uh,
Um, and then
I mean, unfortunately, she's a plot device, so it's a well done plot device. It's still a plot device.
she's a plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say everybody's in this story, honestly, because the whole thing is centered around how is everybody reacting to Simon. Um,
Uh-huh.
I would say everybody in this film's a plot device. But yeah, and then I was thinking the only time I think where that's challenged, I think that's challenged a little bit. Obviously, she does come around to forgiving Simon, but this last point here that she gets very angry at Simon um, for manipulating her and Nick's relationship. So I think that was a strong moment for her as a character to
Mhm.
speak for herself, her own perspective. Because I'm always super 50-50 about how I feel about Simon throughout this movie of just like he really does hurt a lot of his friends in this, but like I understand at the same time he's in like an impossible situation. Ooh, it's complex. It's tough. It's almost as emotionally complex as Revenge of the Fallen.
Absolutely.
Not quite up there with Sam's trauma, but pretty close.
Ah, yeah, pretty close.
And then we got Colonel Lennox, William Lennox, or now he's going as Jack Spears. His witness protection name, obviously. And then he's a. Do you want to read it, Tommy?
Oh, yes. Proud straight dad. Assumes his son is straight. Wants to make a slideshow video for his wife.
Wasn't sure what else
So
to add
that's,
about this guy.
well, I'm pretty sure they need to have him retire less after, fighting the Autobots. He just wants to settle down.
Yeah, and then Simon says in several narrations that like he's confident that all his parents and family overall would accept him and his friends would accept him. He's just he's trying to. And I think that's the interesting point you kind of alluded to it. Like just because like or are confident that everybody's going to be okay with you or the people that matter are going to be okay with you, that doesn't mean that you have to come out right away or you don't owe anybody to come out right away. I
Yep.
think that's a strong message. I think, especially
Uh-huh.
considering the stories I've heard about coming out. Um, and then, but the thing I like so much about this character, do you want to start with him or should I start?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The thing I like so much about this character is that it gives a portrayal to that issue of just like the dad who doesn't have a problem with gay people, but just talks about, says certain things that show that he has an expectation for his son to be straight, um, and then also he just says side comments about like we talked about the gossip, the gay gossip about the reality TV show stars, just like, dude, that guy's totally fruity. I almost can't believe that he said that in the movie.
Eh,
Um, and then yeah, the constant comments about Simon being with girls, like oh, all your girlfriends, and even when Simon's trying to come out to his parents, his dad's first reaction is, "You got a girl pregnant." Um, like that's it's
And
kind of
then,
he's joking, but like he's still assuming that. And God, just that comment about and he's just grappling with it, but his immediate reaction is, "So what's one of your girlfriends turned you gay?" Because that's how he assumes. Well, some people assume gay people work is they just they've had bad experiences with girls.
yeah, but he feels bad about it after.
Yeah, yeah,
You
totally.
know, it's a parent apologizing to their kid, fantasy movie. We love those.
It's parent, but he's mainly apologizing just for the assumptions and comments that he made. I mean, that's the really, to me, that's sort of the different thing is that he's not apologizing for rejecting him in any form of being gay, like overtly, because obviously he's just assuming straight. But that's what I like about this portrayal is that he has this assumption, he feels shame about it, and then is able to apologize and get over it to a certain extent. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, love it. Love this part of the
Love
film.
it.
Feel bad that the proud straight dad's my favorite part, but yeah. And now we get on to the most evil villain of the Transformers franchise so far. Maybe Scourge in the new film will be even more evil than Martin, but I really doubt it.
Oh, yes.
This guy. You wanna read? Can you read the beginning part?
The most evil villain of the franchise so far. He comes into possession of Simon's emails to Blue, like how the Decepticons tried to go at possession of the Allspark, whatever plot device they needed, and blackmails Simon into helping him get closer romantically with Abby.
Yeah. So he finds Simon's emails and threatens to reveal them. It's just, oh my god. So yeah, Martin's sort of interesting character in my opinion, of just like
Let's
his
just say we've all met him in high school.
yeah, his like microaggressions and stuff of like asking Simon like, so you're gay, so like, what do you think? How do you think we can make me sexier or whatever to appeal to Abby? It's just like that, those creepy assumptions. Um, and then what else? Yeah, we brought up this part about like his insistence that him and Abby belong together, and you brought up this great quote from the director. Oh, sorry, God, this is so professional. Uh, Sorry, this quote from the director. Martin sees himself as the hero in his own romantic comedy, and everything is going to work out for him. I definitely, we definitely see that, like the way that the Waffle House scene. He's like thinking, "Oh, this is going to be like my inspirational scene where she falls in love with me because I help her come out of her shell and be who she really is." Yeah, all that.
Yep, the straight guy movie is over, and it's creepy.
Yeah, he's like, well, I'm the straight guy in the story, so I must be the protagonist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That stuff really
Mm-hmm.
works. I just, oh god, I want to kill this character every time he's on screen. I'm like,
I un-
yeah,
I understand why.
I'm a little impressed with his remorse after he outs Simon. I think that's what this picture's from. I'm a little impressed that he shows remorse and tries to apologize after outing Simon, because he outs Simon just to get some attention off of himself too. Like which is, I know that's the worst thing, and that's the worst thing he does. But like, um, he makes a fool of himself trying to ask Abby out during a football game, and then he posts like, "Oh, by the way, Simon Spears is gay. Let's all talk about that instead of talking about me." Like that's a direct quote from him. um, and then I'm a little impressed that he is able to apologize, and I'm somewhat charmed a little bit, I must admit, when he tries to say that he's blue with the Ferris wheel. It's like, I'm not saying Simon should go for it. I'm just saying it's kind of charming that he's willing to do that.
I
Totally.
guess.
Do you totally disagree, Tommy? I don't know. I'm always a little charmed by that moment, but yeah, it's hard to make up all the other horrible crap he's done throughout the movie.
I mean, the actor plays it well.
Yeah.
He's a plot device.
Who's not a
I
plot device?
I know, but I'm just saying is the only way you're gonna bring up some trauma with me, so we're not gonna talk about this.
Okay, that's totally fine. We can move on. But yes, that's Martin. Good luck, Rise of the Beasts. I
Yeah.
guess. Oh God, you know what? I didn't consider this though. Who's more evil, Transformers 3 Sam or Martin?
Ooh.
Probably Martin. Probably Martin.
Yeah, Martin. Like,
Sam's just weird because he's supposed to be the protagonist. Martin's not supposed to be the protagonist. Martin's an anti-protagonist, so that kind of works. I guess in a way
the
Sam isn't too, but
antagonist.
yeah, there you go. He's an antagonist.
Antagonist.
But
Yes, that's what.
I was also just thinking like, this quote specifically points him as like an anti-protagonist. But yes, antagonist, of course. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
all right, moving on from Martin. Um, just one more thing I want to bring up that I think is interesting, comparing this to the Michael Bay directed Transformers movies, is that like it obviously uses a different flavor of gaze. Let's say it. I think it still uses gaze to a certain extent. Obviously, the Bayformers films, especially the early ones, follow the male gaze. I mean, they all do, but in terms of like leering at women's bodies, I think that's more prevalent in like the early films than the later ones. But so just sort of comparing, this scene to this scene where Simon um, is trying to flirt with the sexy leaf blower guy.
I mean, at least he knows when to stop, as opposed to Sam.
Yeah. And then just asking the questions, do we see one version of gaze as more loving and thoughtful than the other? What was I trying to say with this part again? It's a different from protagonist perspective. And then yeah, like how does Sam's perspective differ from like Simon's perspective beyond the sexuality of it?
Mm.
It's not like the funny thing about this question is it's like it's almost not that different to me to some extent. Um, where it's like they're both kind of just awkward teenage boys um in the same vein. It's like neither one is doing a Neither one is like this great uh, flirtatious master, let's say. They're both just kind of stumbling through it, which I think is kind of interesting.
I mean, the only real difference is one, Simon's scene is shorter, and
Yeah.
Simon's scene he's thinking with his heart. With Shia's scene, he's thinking with his, you know.
I mean, the Simon scene. I mean, he's horny.
Oh yeah, that's right. The scene like right before that scene.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's part two. Yeah. I tried to get that scene too. Um, and then, oh god, I had something really good. What was it? Gaze part. The only difference too is that this scene is not directly contradicting the way that this scene is shot is not directly contradicting the script the way that this scene does that we discussed in the first film. where
Mm-hmm.
where this guy is not talking about how people don't see him beyond his legs, and then all Simon does is looks at his legs. Where this scene is also Michaela like, I have actual emotions, and then the screen is just like, look at her body. So there's that.
Ah,
And then, how does each film feel about romance? I'd like to say Love Simon likes romance more than Transformers 2007 does.
absolutely.
All right. That brings us to the end, Tommy. We can now just talk about how much we love the film.
Do you want
You
to go
may.
first? Oh, I may.
Do you want me to go first?
I don't. Yes.
Okay. Um, I love talking and thinking about this film through what it's saying about queer identity, what it gives us, how it expands the Transformers universe. I think is really interesting, giving us some different kind of characters. Obviously, like this is the most diverse cast that we've had, both in gender, sexuality, race. At least in the primary, like there's lots of different ethnicities and races represented in the Bayformers movies, but like they're always not really the center. It's usually just white characters at the center. Um, but I like thinking about this movie. I like writing about this movie. I I'm fine. It's not that I don't like watching it. It's so painful sometimes because Martin is just such a villain. Um, it's kind of like my dad actually has that problem with Transformers 4 where he Kelsey Grammer's character makes him so mad um, because like the way that he's terrorizing this family just to make money. Um, the same with that. And it's sort of different, but Martin's exploiting Simon obviously. Like Kelsey Grammer doesn't bother me in Transformers 4 on that level because I just think it's Kelsey Grammer. It's just kind of funny. Um, but I understand where my dad's coming from. This is where I get mad in the franchise. I'm just like, it's this Martin character. I hate him so much. And even then, it's not just Martin. It's like I'm uncomfortable with everything Simon has to go through. Of like, and obviously you're supposed to be uncomfortable, but just like how messed up he allows his friends' lives to get. Which again, sorry, that's probably too judgmental to say that, but like, it just makes me feel bad through the whole situation. So there's probably a lot of like, I'm probably not feeling great watching the movie. I'm constantly just like frustrated with humanity watching it. It doesn't make me feel as good as like Transformers 2 or Transformers 4. Um, but this is inarguably better than Transformers 1 or Transformers 5 or it's not as funny as Transformers 3, but it's probably easier to it's on in a way easier to get through. Um, yeah, it's a huge mixed bag of emotions for me. I think it's a really interesting film for all the things we talked about, primarily with the queer lenses it adds, which is like because we talked about this how I didn't want to. I think I teased this at the beginning of the series that we were going to use queer theory to approach this film, and then I sort of thought soon after like let's not do that because this you don't need queer theory to think about this movie because to me the function of queer theory is to add a queer lens to texts that don't have overtly queer characters. Obviously, this just does, right? I mean, this is just about a kid coming out, so we didn't need to do that. But it's still adding queer lenses to this franchise that are needed and are interesting to explore. Um, I think we might queer Bumblebee. I'm not sure yet. We'll think about that. But yeah, it's like kind of mid tier for me. It's definitely better than the really bad Transformers movies. I don't like this as much as Revenge of the Fallen or Age of Extinction. Um, but it's closer to Revenge of the Fallen, which for me is a higher mark already. And then like it's just not as um, it doesn't make me feel as if there's something about Age of Extinction that I just feel very comfortable, very excited, very I hate to say it, well represented because like just the way that it deals with the critical race angle, with the metaphor that's going on in that film really hits home for me, really resonates with me. Where this, I definitely relate to that discussion of why is it that gay people are the ones that have to come out. But there's just too many other elements in the film that make me clench my fists in frustration. Again, and it's not even an issue of like, oh, this is being done bad. It's just it's not being done poorly. It's just oh, we know these Martins and we want to strangle
We
them all.
yes, we do. Yes, we
All
do.
right, that would be my general review of the film. Tommy, best film ever, favorite film, go for it.
Oh, absolutely. Best film ever, favorite film. Okay, I'll say it's my favorite film. I won't say best film ever because it will. Yeah, I went to go see it thinking it's going to be very fantasy oriented, and it is. It is very fantasy oriented, but I at least felt it was like 3 degrees closer to reality than initially intended. I went through this movie, this as in real life, because this came out like 4 years after graduating high school, and it's very good to watch after going through some gay related trauma. So I find that the characters are reasonably flawed, which I think makes for great character work. The acting's great. I think it's funny when it needs to be. It's serious when it needs to be. I didn't cry this time around. I think I'm kind of outgrowing this movie just a little bit. Like, I now know that life does not actually work this way even more than I did 5 years ago when this movie initially came out. But I still find the charm in it. I'm glad it brought us more queer content like the TV show Heartstopper on Netflix, and it's obviously the best Transformers movie. And do I need to rank the other ones yet?
Um, you don't have to. We can wait
Yeah,
till we can wait.
let's
Let's do it
rise.
during.
We'll just
Well, let's do it during Bumblebee, and then we'll just like explain where Rise of the Beast ranks during that review.
okay. That sounds fine.
Um,
So very well made movie. In my, I just think it's a very nice, cute little movie that you could watch with your whole family.
but this is a,
Like
I
it's
mean,
not like
yeah.
it's not like the greatest movie ever made. I just like it. I just like that it exists.
I will. Yeah, I think you're making a really good point that it definitely signaled that hey, we're ready for more queer stories in the mainstream. That's really great. Um, and let me ask: is Love Victor better than this movie, or on
No,
par?
because here's the problem with Love Victor. It has a good first season, a great second season, and then the third season it just kind of completely peters out until like just whatever. It's like they clearly did not have room for a fourth season because they barely had room for a third season.
Yeah, are they doing a fourth season?
No, they're not.
Okay,
They ended after season 3.
gotcha. Um, yes. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about. Don't know. No, I actually don't know. Sorry. I thought I had something more to say. Yeah, we will be. That's it for you, Tommy. That's all you got.
So I got
That's good. That's good. Oh no, I do know what I want to say. I felt a little bad that you said like you're outgrowing this movie. Um, I
I,
understand that. I think the only reason I'm a little sad is because like Age of Extinctions, in terms of it hasn't gotten more exciting necessarily because like I've seen it a billion times, but like I feel like I've gotten a deeper meaning out of that movie. The longer I've looked at it, so like it's gotten better for me in a lot of ways. Um, so no, that kind of bothers me if this is not remained as exciting or interesting, but it happens.
no, I just mean like I really shouldn't be watching high school shows anymore, even though I kind of like Heartstopper. It's just kind of my.
Well, this is a
I'm just
teenage
sort of like
franchise, so
I just sort of like got. I'm just a little bit more jaded than I was the last like 5 years ago. or 10 years ago.
Is that going to happen to me
So
soon? I don't want that to happen to me.
no, I think it already happened. Anyway,
All right. All right. Well,
yeah,
please join us next time. We will be covering the second Transformers spin-off movie, Instant Family, starring Mark Wahlberg's characters come back, Cade Yeager's coming back, Isabella Merced is coming back, um, reprising her role as Isabella.
yes,
But they will also be going by new names because of witness protection. So please join
absolutely.
us. Please join us for that. We can't wait to talk about that film. I think we're going to focus on sort of another angle of critical race theory, but we're going to laser in on like the white savior narrative trope, which was sort of touched on in Age of Extinction. I think it's really called out in Instant Family, so we'll be talking about that, dissecting into that. And we'll see. Is it better than this? Is it better than this spinoff? Does Tommy like it more than this one? Do I like it more than this one? We will see. Tommy
We
likes this one
shall.
more. Okay, bye.
Yeah, he does.